Well, Vikram, thank you so much for having me on. I'm looking forward to visiting your shop. I'm looking forward to visiting Massachusetts. I've only been a couple times, so it's going to feel very new to me. So like Vikram said, my name is Amanda de la NUEZ. I'm actually born and raised in Miami, Florida. I apologize for the sirens. I do live in New York. It's just kind of part of the soundtrack here.
Right.
I'm born and raised in Miami, but I've lived in New York now for 12 years. I was an actor, a dancer, you know, all the things that kind of New York kind of brings out of creatives. And in that time, I was also tending bar. And so I had been a bartender for about a decade. Started to work with some of the products in Back Bar Project, specifically the Giffard line and the Casa Cortés line, which happens to be the two brands that we're going to be discussing a little bit more and showcasing next week. And an opportunity presented itself to work for the import company that brought these lovely products in, which is Back Bar Project. And 2017 came around and I threw my hat, you know, my name in the hat, and they took a chance on me. You know, I knew that I wanted to explore other opportunities in this industry. It's a fun industry to work in, but there's also so many facets to it. And I knew that I wanted to keep learning and have the opportunity to even travel and really kind of like immerse myself in the cultures and families that represent a lot of these brands. And so it was kind of a no-brainer to work for a company like Back Bar Project because of the kind of brands and families that they represented. And so they took a chance on me in 2017. I've entered into my 5th year now working with Back Bar Project. We've expanded our portfolio since then. Giffard is really who started us as an import company. And then we were allowed to kind of branch out through there. We brought on Casa Cortés, which of course includes Agave de Cortés, Nuestra Soledad, y El Jolgorio. And
these are, I'm sorry to interrupt, but these are all agave based, like mezcals and tequilas, or are they all okay? So we'll get into that.
So Casa Cortés is all mezcales. It's all artisanal, artesanal mezcal from Oaxaca. We also do work with a tequila brand named Angelisco. They are based in, of course, Jalisco, in Mexico. But Casa Cortés is only mezcal. It's a family-owned brand, so that was also something that was really important, not just to me when I started to work for Back Bar Project, but really kind of the focus of our company as a whole. We're just the middleman, right? We're just bringing it in. We're telling their story, but these are family-owned brands, really focused on honoring tradition and culture, you know, within each country of the brands we represent. And Casa Cortés is family-owned by the Cortés family in Oaxaca, in Santiago, Matatlan. Agave de Cortés is their namesake. And as they started to expand and become essentially like a co-op, where it's now 16 families that produce under that name.
I see, okay.
That's where Nuestra Soledad was born. So that was a way to really kind of explore and learn about mezcal, because you're still tasting espadín per village, but you're really tasting how the terroir, the climate, the elevation, all of these things play a factor in what we end up tasting. And then the El Jolgorio line, I like to call it the geek out line. That's really where you start to kind of chase after some of the nuances that you picked up on in Nuestra Soledad. So like Don Chucho, for example, from Santa Maria Zoquitlan, he's got some little certain things about him and the way he makes his mezcal that you can kind of pick up on just based on where he's located. But then when you taste his Mexicano, for example, in the El Jolgorio line, you can kind of pick up on some of those things too, despite the fact that they're different agaves, but you strike, oh, I taste a little bit of that, like that passion fruit that comes through sometimes, or the fresh cut grass that's typical of his, you know, of his area, of his land. So El Jolgorio was, that brand was started in 2009. And that was really a way to celebrate the tradition of mezcal, and not just in using espadín, but also all the other varietals that are used in making mezcal, which is a vast world and really a fun one to explore, because you see these spirits, right? And they're clear, they're in the bottle. So you don't really think like there's any age to that. But then you pick up a bottle of Tepestate And you're like, this was 25 years old before it got pulled out of the ground. Like the idea that like these mezcaleros are even semi-cultivating some of these agaves for their grandchildren to then later harvest is just, it always blows my mind. Like I know this already, and every time I talk about it or bring back that point, I'm always like surprised by it, because again, even Espadín takes a minimum of 7 to 10 years. Like that's a long time.
It is a long time indeed.
So yeah. So with regards to next week, we were going to taste through several of the Casa Cortés mezcales. I wanted to show, kind of like reintroduce everyone to Agave de Cortés. It has recently gone back to a Cortés family member. So Francisco Cortés is now the head mezcalero at Agave de Cortés. It was still within the family, but it was with a cousin on the mom's side.
I see. Okay.
Now it's back to a Cortés. It's still family, but now it's like really family. And I thought we could also maybe taste through a few of the Nuestras just to really kind of see how the same agave really starts to shift as we start to change location, environment, climate, all these things. And then, of course, we have to taste through some Jolgorios. I mean, you know, I just talked a big game about the fun varietals that exist in this magical landscape. It'd be foolish to not taste through some of these. So I was thinking we could taste perhaps the Madre Cuiche, maybe the Tepestate, since I also brought that up. I kind of feel like we should go through that. And perhaps even the Tobala. I'm a bit biased when it comes to Tobala because it's I call it the little agave that could. It's got a lot of flavor for such a little guy. It doesn't yield a whole lot, but what it does yield is usually always chef's kiss, as the kids say. And then aside or next to that, I also wanted to showcase two of our Giffard flavors. So Giffard is a French brand, also family owned and run. It's in its fourth generation right now, shifting to the fifth. And these are naturally made fruit liqueurs in Angers, which is in the Loire Valley in France. So, you know, obviously known for their wine, but just known for their agriculture in general in this region. And Giffard makes, I mean, several different liqueurs, but the two that I really wanted to show, just as we're slowly starting to get into these warmer months where we're just manifesting warmer weather, I wanted to showcase the Pamplemousse, which is the grapefruit liqueur. It is it's essentially the flagship for the States. And I say that because it's not the flagship SKU in France. It's the one in France is actually the mint liqueur, but Americans aren't really drinking a whole lot of mint liqueur these days, maybe in a stinger, maybe in the freezer, take it out after dinner, but it's not something that we're seeing too much in cocktails, whereas the Pamplemousse we are. And I know it's a classic one, but the triple sec. So we just launched a new triple sec with Giffard, 35% ABV, so just under that mark, really juicy, bright orange. And I'd love to make a little cocktail for our guests next week, just to kind of taste how the Agave de Cortés Joven is in a paloma with the Pamplemousse or in a margarita. And hopefully, and we'll have some fun little cocktail cards for our guests. They can make these cocktails at home. Very easy, delicious, refreshing, and again, manifesting warm weather.
Fantastic. I really look forward to it. So essentially we have these liqueurs, which you have many, I think, but we are going to be focusing on those two. And then we have a variety of agave spirits. Is Back Bar Project working on any other projects, so to speak?
That's a great question. And it's great to kind of talk a little bit more through that. So we actually represent several other brands. And so within France, we have Giffard, we have Bigallet, which they're actually married into each other. Bigallet is based in just outside of Lyon in a very small little town called Birieu. It's quite literally on the French countryside in the Rhone Valley. And they produce for us the China China, which is the French Amer. So
Okay.
the French's answer to Amaro.
Okay.
And a thyme liqueur, which is as straightforward as you would imagine. It literally tastes like liquefied thyme. It's very herbal, savory, and common of that region. It's very like mountainous herbs and plants.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have one of my favorite brands in our line, Cognac Park. So we have a cognac line from the Tissondier brothers, who are based in Borderie in Cognac.
Okay.
Pretty fun line there. We have, I mean, we have it all up to XO. We have VS all the way up to XO. We have Pinot de Charente.
Right.
Then we have a French vermouth from Chambéry called Vermouth Routon.
Nice.
We have Jalisco tequila, as I mentioned. We also have a Sotol from Chihuahua called
Is that right?
Yes,
Oh,
called Sotol Por Siempre.
I am very fascinated by Sotols and would love to. I mean, is this carried in Massachusetts, the Sotol as well?
As far as I know, it is. So I would be more than happy to even show it if you want like a little bonus for,
I love that. I find it very fascinating. I haven't had as many Sotols as we, mezcals and tequilas, but love to explore that as well.
Absolutely. I mean, and to your point, there's not a ton of Sotols, so you've probably had most of them, to be honest. When we look at mezcal, even though tequila for the longest time was the like #1 producing spirit in Mexico, one could argue that it's really mezcal now, because when you look at the denominación de origen, the denomination of origin in Mexico, 9 states have the DO for mezcal, whereas tequila and Sotol don't hold that at all. Right. With Sotol, you only have 3 states that are producing Sotol that can call it that. But it's like a cousin to mezcal. It's similar in terms of its production, but it's a very different plant altogether.
Correct.
So yeah, I'd be more than happy to bring a bottle by and.
Yeah, no, it'll be lovely. And also, I think like any new product, mezcals typically, if it's Jolgorio or something like of that caliber, we almost drink it like whiskey. Straight and not much addition to it. But, we'd love to know how to approach these, like Sotol. How do you drink a Sotol? I think that'll be very nice to hear about that. Mezcals work so well in so many cocktails. So just ideas as to how to incorporate that into cocktails will be great too. So what else? Anything else?
So we also work. So I took you to Mexico, I took you to France, and now I'm going to take you to Jamaica. So we also work with the Jamaican rum. We work with the Worthy Park Estate, owned and run by the Clark family. Yeah. You mentioned whiskey a moment ago, and I was going to say the Worthy Park Single Estate Reserve line I find to be very popular amongst whiskey drinkers, because there's often a big disconnect when it comes to rum, the assumption that because it's made of sugar, it's automatically sweet. And while yes, rum is made of sugar, molasses is a byproduct of sugar, of course, there is no added sugar in Jamaican rum. And so therefore you're not getting a sweeter version of the product itself. And Worthy Park makes rum the traditional Jamaican way, which is 100% copper pot stilled. They use the Forsyth still. So as a whiskey guy, I'm sure you know what a Forsyth still is.
Sure.
So it just becomes a super flavorful, jam-packed rum. And for a long time, they were known for their aged rum. So their Single Estate Reserve line is just such a wonderful line to showcase someone who has a really strong whiskey palate, because you get enough of that wood, you still get that funk from the Jamaican rum that it almost feels more like a whiskey than it does a rum.
Right.
So we've got a pretty extensive line there with them. We've got the Rum Bar line, which is the cocktail, like the rum of Jamaica, really. It's the overproof, the gold, which is a blend of their 4 to 6, and then their silver. And then the Single Estate line is the more premium line. Again, I say this with the little fingers only because when we hear premium, we assume that it's super expensive, but rum has never been something that is very, very expensive. You can still get a fantastic rum for like $25. Not that these are priced that way, but it's the Single Estate Reserve line really focuses on the blending of these barrels. I see. So the starter one is a blend of their 6, 8, and 10 year. And then they also have some single cask series that we just launched, which are super fun. The 2 that just came to market are the Madeira finish and the port finish. Madeira and rum work so well together. I mean, Foursquare does it. Richard Seal, he does an amazing job with Madeira casks. And
And that'll be very fascinating if we can get, are these in Massachusetts too or no, the Madeira casks? Okay, we have a friend on your left, just walked in the door.
Oh yeah, hi honey. Hi, I know we're on a video. I know you can't be on it. She walked in very quietly though, so I do appreciate. She must have been given the heads up at the front door.
Right. There we go. Very intelligent.
But yes, the Madeira and the port are available.
And what's the ABV on those, Amanda? Do you know? Are these basically cask strength, batch strength, or are they at 46? How do you where do you bottle them?
The Madeira and the port are.
It's not that important. I mean, if you don't know.
I think they might be at 45. I would have to double check because we do have a cask strength one.
Okay.
It's a single barrel 12-year, and that one's at like 56%.
56%. Okay.
Yeah. So that one was a little bit hotter. But I'm pretty certain that the Madeira and the port are about 45%. If not, maybe a touch higher, but I don't think that they're at 50 or higher.
Okay. And are these ex-bourbon or are these Madeira and port as well?
They are they're ex-bourbon for 8 years and then 2 years in their finishes. So 2 Madeira, 2 port.
Even the higher ABV one, the single, the 56%.
No, so that one is just ex-bourbon.
Just ex-bourbon. Okay.
Yep, just ex-bourbon.
Okay, fascinating. So yeah, no, so I think our tasting lineup is just increasing a little bit, but we'll hone it on some of these things more in detail so that everybody can understand what we're trying to taste. But really look forward to meeting you in person and also going through these, looking forward to the cocktails because that's an area that don't have much knowledge of on. And so it'll be great to see you on St. Paddy's Day. Yeah.
It's gonna be fun. I'm guessing I should wear green. I've heard the rumor if I don't wear green.
Yeah, whatever you like is fine. I think it'll be fine. Yeah.
Amazing.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.
Thank you so much, Bikram. And spoiler alert, I will be back in Massachusetts in April.
Okay.
For an agave event actually in Boston called Bowl of Zol. So I would love to extend an invitation to you if you'd like to come.
Sure. Yeah.
There'll be many mezcal brands there. We will have a table there as well.
Okay.
And if there's room, I'd love to do another tasting at Norfolk. So we can talk as the date gets closer, but if I'm there, I'd love to stop by and say hello and see your customers again too. So
absolutely. Very good. So see you next week. Yeah, but we'll definitely connect intermediately. Yeah. Take care.
Thank you. You too.
Yeah. Thanks.